Hello everyone, this is part 2 of What If Deku Married Mei, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Kendo, Midoriya, and Hatsume walked together to the train station, the latter two looking as the former rubbed her forehead. Geez, Midoriya, you just became more incredible than before, the redhead sighed. I mean, you jumped right in and snatched Hatsume before the hero killer himself could actually, well, kill her. Who else can claim to have done such a thing? It's not a big deal, really, the guy said. Midoriya's right, after all, he just saved me from a serial killer who has a knack for killing and crippling professional heroes. Hatsume rolled her eyes. When you think about it, it really isn't a big deal. We can do without the sass, Hatsume. Kendo let out a light-hearted chuckle. You guys are a riot. No, we're not, they said in unison. Well, anyway, this is my stop, Kendo said as the trio reached the train station, just in time for her train to arrive. Have a good night, and I'll see you again, Midoriya. And maybe Hatsume too. I'm on the support course, and spend most of my time there creating gadgets. Then I'll tell Midoriya to tell you I said hi. That sounds reasonable. Kendo chuckled again, and entered the train, waving goodbye as the train rode off, releasing dust that caused the duo to cough. It was Mina Ashido, sitting on a bench and moving her legs up and down, humming a tune. Upon seeing her, Midoriya's face did what was once thought impossible, he scrunched it in anger. He, and Hatsume, walked up to the girl, who chirped up as soon as she saw him. Oh hi, Midoriya. Hey Ashido, I need to ask you something. Midoriya exclaimed, his tone of voice unusually loud. Fine, but first, call me Mina will you? The pink-skinned girl folded her arms. Seriously, Ashido, just sounds way too formal for my liking. Aren't we supposed to be friends? Midoriya folded his arms as well. We might not be anymore depending on what you answer. Oh, Mina raised an eyebrow. Fine, shoot, what do you need to ask me? Midoriya glanced at Hatsume, who nodded once, and the guy shot the question. Did you sting Kendo while I was showing your class my quirk? Mina remained silent. While I was walking with Kendo, I noticed that her arm had some particularly nasty burn marks on it. She said you did it. And you believed her. Midoriya flinched as Mina stood up and walked up to him. Midoriya, did she give you any proof that I was the one who did it? Her burn marks were proof enough. Hatsume barged in. Flashing a disapproving glare, Mina grabbed Hatsume's shoulders, brought her to the bench, and sat her down. Stay here while the adults are talking. Hatsume begrudgingly obliged, and Mina went back to Midoriya. Anyway, where was I? Oh right, you're taking Kendo's side over a simple statement, with no proof to back it up, which seems to have been made in order to incriminate me. Think about this, Midoriya, why would I want to sting Kendo, while you were busy showing everyone how amazing your quirk is? Midoriya blushed and looked elsewhere. Again, it's not that amazing. Midoriya, don't be fooled. Hatsume exclaimed. She's trying to use compliments in order to make you forget about what she did to Kendo. Shush, you. Mina snapped at the pink-haired gadgeteer. And besides, you can't accuse me of something if you don't have proof of it. Fingerprints. Mina turned back to Midoriya. What? The burn marks in Kendo's shoulder resembled fingerprints, Midoriya clarified. And judging by their position, they could have only been made if someone had wrapped their arm around Kendo, which you could have done while everybody else was looking at me. Midoriya, you're screwing with me, right? Mina's eyes twitched and her smile turned unhinged. Why you don't actually believe that I? That's enough, Pinky. Mina turned around, and to her discomfort, Bakugo was standing nearby, hands on his pockets as he looked at the pink-skinned girl with his usual scowl. Just tell him you did it and be done with it. Mina gritted her teeth. For the last time, I didn't do anything. Then who did it? Midoriya asked. Mina glanced at Midoriya for a second, before she stomped her way to Bakugo, prompting the boy to grab her arm. Wait. Let me go. Mina swung her arm and pressed her fingers against Midoriya's sleeve, burning him a little before the boy's wings suddenly materialized in front of him, and spread, hitting Mina hard enough to send her flying right into Bakugo's arms. And as the wings dissipated and Hatsume ran to check Midoriya's wounds, the guy looked shocked at Mina's state. Not only did 2 of her teeth fall out, but her nose was broken and bleeding. This sight, however, simply made Bakugo smirk. See, that's what happens when you act like a stubborn little bitch. Oh, shut up, Bakugo. Midoriya, Hatsume exclaimed, getting the boy's attention. The burn marks here, they're the same as Kendo's. Midoriya snapped a look at Mina, who flinched as Bakugo pushed her forward a bit. With both boys and Hatsume looking sternly at her, Mina clenched her fists and stomped the ground. Alright, fine, I did it. I lightly burned Kendo's shoulder while you were showing everyone your wings. Why? Midoriya sternly asked. Mina folded her arms and looked away from Midoriya, only to be met by Bakugo's horrifying glare instead. I just wanted to let her know that, just because you were in her class, it didn't mean that you would stay with her forever. That it was always possible you could transfer over to 1A, for whatever reason. Midoriya's eyes were hidden by his hair as he grabbed Hatsume's hand, and the 2 angrily stomped out of the train station, Bakugo joining them soon after shooting another disapproving glare at Mina. Deku, Midoriya and Hatsume stopped, both throwing glares at Bakugo that barely fazed him. He took a deep breath, and calmly spoke. You have all the right to be pissed off over what Pinky did. I'm sure that once everybody finds out what she did, and they will even if we both keep our traps shut, she's going to lose a lot of friends. But, don't assume everybody else in 1A is the same, okay? They don't deserve to be fucked over thanks to a pink asshole's attitude. Midoriya blinked twice, his anger being replaced with confusion. After all, Bakugo was actually speaking, somewhat cordially for once. What the heck happened in the time before school started? Why did you help me back during my demonstration? Midoriya asked. In fact, how did you know I was going to do that at all? Seriously, a guy with swan wings is soaring through the skies at the school, and I'm just supposed to ignore that shit. Bakugo turned to Hatsume. Besides, your girlfriend here told me about it. Midoriya looked at Hatsume, who looked elsewhere and blushed a little. Well, thanks, Bakugo. Midoriya paused. And tell Ashido that I don't want to see her for a while. I'll give her the message. With nothing more to say, the duo nodded and left. Well, that was awkward, Hatsume remarked. Infuriating is what I'd say, Midoriya sighed. It's barely the first day and already one of my classmates got injured because a student from the other hero class wanted to be a jerk. I think she had a different, yet also selfish reason to do it. Hatsume scratched her cheek. Maybe she fell in love with you and saw Kendo as a menace. Well, if that's a hint of things to come, I might as well drop romance out of my list of things to deal with. Hatsume frowned. Yeah, I guess that's a thought. Midoriya flinched, and hastily added, by that I mean, I'll try not to pursue romance with any of the girls of 1A. Hatsume rolled her eyes, perfectly unamused. Midoriya kept his mouth shut as the duo reached the Midoriya's apartment, and he opened the door. Only to be greeted by the sight of his mother and Melissa working on some kind of gadget, giving it the finishing touches before they noticed the pair. Oh, Izuku, Hatsume, welcome back. Inko greeted, Melissa smiling sheepishly as she waved hello. I invited Melissa over for dinner, I hope you don't mind. Not at all. Midoriya stuttered, clasping his hands as he blushed vibrantly. I just would have liked to hear we would be having a G guest, hee. Hatsume threw a pouty look at Midoriya, before she caught a glimpse of the gadget Melissa and Inko were working on. She took exactly a second to recognize the gadget as her own. She snatched it and took a closer look at it. Sorry for not asking for your permission first, Hatsume, but Melissa insisted on showing me how much her gadgeting skills had improved since I last saw her. Hey, don't pin the blame on me. Melissa whined. You were the one who showed me that thing. Hatsume took a deep breath. It doesn't really matter, you upgraded it. Melissa tilted her head. I did. This gadget was built in order to serve as binoculars. When I finished it, the farthest it could see was about 3 apples. Hatsume turned to Melissa. Thanks to the modifications you made to it, now it can see up to 3 times that far. Wow, incredible, Melissa. Midoriya remarked, walking past a saddened Hatsume. I never thought you'd be so good with gadgets. Melissa blushed and scratched the back of her head. Well, I was an inventor before I joined UA's hero course. I designed mech suits, gadgets, and the like. As the trio chuckled some more, Hatsume glanced between them and the upgraded gadget, her frown gaining hints of despair. So, there's something else I wanted to tell you, Melissa said, getting everyone's attention. Since Island is obviously extremely far away from UA, I'm going to be moving to the room next door starting tomorrow. Hatsume dropped her jaw and the gadget, the latter somehow not shattering to pieces. TT tomorrow, Midoriya repeated, his cheeks glowing red. Melissa Shield is going to be my neighbor starting tomorrow. Nah, I'll just be the girl living next door, Melissa scratched her chin. Which I guess counts as a type of neighbor, so I guess the answer's yes. I'm just gonna leave now. Hatsume walked through the door, returning Midoriya to reality. See you tomorrow, Midoriya. Hatsume, wait. The pink-haired gadgeteer closed the door, and Midoriya sulked. I think I just upset her. Then go after her, Inko suggested. I'll help Melissa get everything ready in the other room. Meanwhile, you should try cheer Hatsume up. She can't have gone far. Midoriya nodded, and he rushed out the house and after Hatsume, leaving Melissa to ask a worrying question to his mother. Do you think she got upset because of me? Inko frowned and shrugged, which didn't help Melissa as she turned back to the door, a look of regret on her face. Hatsume saved her hands on her pockets, looking at the ground with a forlorn look as she walked back home. It wasn't far away from the Midoriya house, so it would just take about 15 minutes to get there on foot. Hatsume. The girl turned around and lowered her eyelids as soon as she saw Midoriya approaching her. Midoriya, what are you doing here? What am I doing here? I was looking for you. The guy replied. You just suddenly left and I got worried. I'm fine, Midoriya, I just didn't want to intrude. Hatsume looked back at the ocean. After all, you have a famous guest over for dinner. A guest who, mind you, will become your neighbor tomorrow. Yeah, I know, but still, that doesn't mean I'm just going to ignore it when you leave so suddenly. Why not? You seemed more than capable of ignoring me a few seconds ago. Both teenagers stopped right on their tracks, Hatsume gaining a shocked expression as she scrambled to find what to say next. Hopefully something that wouldn't make the guy hate her. He already got a sour impression with Mina, he didn't need one with Hatsume. Hatsume, is something bothering you? Midoriya asked, taking a couple steps to Hatsume's side. If so, then you can talk to me about it. Maybe. Hatsume folded her arms. But then you're going to go back home. Remember that the legendary Melissa Shield will be your neighbor, and you'll forget about everything we just talked about in your little stupor. Now Midoriya had a slight idea on what was bothering the girl. Are you jealous of Melissa, Hatsume? Quote. She took the gadget that took me weeks to develop, and upgraded it in what couldn't have been more than a couple of hours. Not only that, but she made upgrades for it that would have taken me months to implement. And you wanna know why's that? Why? Hatsume turned around, and pointed at her mechanical eyes. Your eyes. What's wrong with them? It's mostly the fact I can only see in shades of pink. It looks cute at first, but then I realize that it becomes stupidly hard to discern what's supposed to be what. I once poured some salt into my dessert thinking it was sugar. To be fair, they're both the same shade of white. I use brown sugar. Quote. Oh, well, do you want my mom to upgrade them? Hatsume flinched, and took a step back before she saved her hands in her pockets and looked elsewhere. I want your mom to upgrade them, I really do, but in order to do that, I'd have to go an entire day, or however long it takes, without being able to see anything. At least with how the eyes are right now, I can see stuff, only on different shades of pink, but still. And besides, Hatsume lowered her head. If I hand over the eyes, it will feel just like that day. Midoriya knew very well what Hatsume was talking about. Not having her eyes would probably trigger memories of her encounter with the hero killer, and that would definitely be a problem while making gadgets. Hatsume, my mom and I want to help you however we can, Midoriya stated, putting a hand on the girl's shoulder. I'm sure we can find a way to deal with that problem. Hatsume twiddled her fingers and blushed. Well, I thought, maybe, why you could be my eyes, for however long it takes. Midoriya flinched, blushing at the request. Or maybe he was blushing at the sight of Hatsume blushing as well, who knew? One thing was certain though, the boy had a feeling this might actually work. Sure. I'll be your eyes until Melissa and Mom upgrade your mechanical eyes. Hatsume stood uneasy for a moment at the mention of Melissa's name, but it didn't take long before she saw the logic in it. The girl had already proven to be quite adept at upgrading stuff, so if she and Inko worked together, her eyes would be perfect by the end of the day. With a renewed sense of joy, Hatsume hugged Midoriya for a second, then separated from him. Thanks, Midoriya. Now, I have to walk back home, so I'll see you tomorrow. Same, Hatsume. The teenagers bid farewell, and returned home soon after. Oh, man, that was an emotional rollercoaster. Midoriya remarked out loud. I just wanna hit the hay now. Midoriya. The boy stopped and turned around to see Melissa looking at him on the top floor of the apartment. She waved at him to come to her, presumably to her room, and ignoring the potential implications, he walked upstairs and went to her. So, how did everything go with your friend? She asked. I managed to talk to her for a bit, cheer her up, and I'm gonna need your help with something for her, Midoriya answered. It's about a gadget, so I hope you'll be able to help us with it. Of course. I got a knack for gadgeting, after all. Melissa frowned. Besides, it's the least I can do after upsetting her like that. Midoriya shrugged. I don't think you really upset her, actually, who am I kidding, you definitely upset her. Melissa took a deep breath and scratched her chin. Well, that's that. Your mom already helped me set my room up, so I wanted to tell you to have a good night, but there's something I want to tell you, before you go. Well, I'm asking you to help me with Hatsume, so I think this is fair. So, what is it? Melissa opened her mouth, but before she uttered a single word, she closed it and looked at the ground. Her face contorted with concern, and she bit her lip as she struggled to find the words she wanted to say, until she finally spoke. I'm actually worried about this, me moving in, I mean. Midoriya blinked twice. That was an oddly realistic thing to be worried about. I mean, ever since I was young, I lived with someone, my dad, my mom, my dad's friends, my mom's friends, but, right now, I'm going to be living on my own, with nobody to support me outside of my dad sending money once in a while. Melissa twiddled her fingers. I mean sure, I'll fight the loneliness by visiting you and Aunt Inko constantly. Midoriya made a mental note to prepare his heart for that. But it won't be the same. The guy smiled and folded his arms. Well, there's a first time for everything. And no matter what happens, you'll have us right next door in case you need help. Melissa turned back to the boy, flashed a smile, and nodded. I'll be counting on you. Midoriya flashed a wide smile and bid goodnight as his face turned red all over again. He wobbled his way to his apartment door, and Inko let slam inside, Melissa giggling as they closed the door. With him gone, the girl's laughter died down and she looked at her hand. The same hand that she used to accept the offering given to her by All Might. The same hand that accepted the gift known as One for All, and finally gave her a quirk after a lifetime of quirklessness. And yet, thanks to her hesitation, this quirk would have to be kept a secret for a little bit longer. Damn it. Hatsume blinked twice, her pink vision allowing her to see the worried looks of Midoriya and his mother as Melissa arrived, holding a toolbox. She had already changed to her school uniform, so the only thing left to do was take out the eyes to get him upgraded. Are you sure about this, Hatsume? Inko asked as she grabbed an anesthetic from the toolbox. We could always wait until the weekend to upgrade your eyes. No need to miss a school day to upgrade your eyes. The gadgeteer shook her head. No, I want them upgraded as soon as possible. Besides, Midoriya promised me to be my eyes for today, so I got nothing to worry about. You two really are close, huh? Melissa asked as she formed a supportive smile. I mean, I guess it's only natural. It's thanks to him that you got these eyes, right? Hatsume flinched a little, forgetting that Melissa was more than likely unaware of what had transpired between the hero killer and the guys. But she didn't let this get her down for long. She took a deep breath, nodding in agreement as Inko injected the anesthetic on her arm. And a few seconds later, Hatsume fell unconscious. A couple minutes passed, and when Hatsume regained consciousness, she could see nothing. Even when she opened her eyelids, weakly, the nothingness remained, simply glowing brighter. Hatsume, how do you feel? Midoriya's voice. Music to her ears. I'm fine. Can't see anything, though. Of course not, we took out your eyes, Inko's voice remarked. Melissa and I will work hard on them so you'll be happy with them when you return. A soft sensation in her hand startled Hatsume, but she calmed down once she realized the sensation was someone, possibly Midoriya, grabbing her hand to guide her. Hey, wait a minute, I just realized something. Doesn't Midoriya and Melissa have to go to UA? I called Principal Nezu and explained to him that I would be running late thanks to your request, Melissa explained. He said it was fine as long as I got ready as soon as the gadget had been dealt with. As for me, Midoriya spoke. I called in to say I had some business to take care of, so I wouldn't be able to go to school today. Hatsume frowned. But Midoriya, what about your classes? I'll just ask Kendo to give me a recap of what went down today. And yes, I know there's also the chance Vlad King will be furious when he finds out I didn't go today, but at least I have a reason why. Hatsume felt Midoriya grabbing her hand tightly, but not enough to crush. It felt more like a protective hold, as if Midoriya wanted to reassure her that nothing bad would happen to her. Now, where would you like to go first? Hatsume chuckled. Did he really just ask the blind girl to effectively lead the way? I'll go wherever you wanna go, Midoriya. In that case, I know just where to start. Hatsume sat down on a bench, in what she assumed to be a place close to a beach, going by what sounded like waves crashing on the shore. The girl was curious why this was Midoriya's first place to go to, but she decided to go along with it. She couldn't exactly take the lead and go somewhere else. And we're here, Midoriya voiced, getting her attention. Dagobah Municipal Beach Park. What? Midoriya, did I hear you right? She asked. I mean, isn't Dagobah Municipal Beach Park more of a dumpster nowadays? Not anymore, because some anonymous person was nice enough to clean the beach. I know you can't see it, but there's not a speck of garbage in the vicinity. Okay, new plan. As soon as Hatsume's eyes were done, they had to go back so she could see the beach for herself. Midoriya, if you don't mind me asking, why did you take me to a beach? Just then, Midoriya loosened his grip on Hatsume's hand, so the girl tightened her own grip and grabbed his arm with her free hand. She made sure not to get too close, she knew doing such a thing would just scare him, which would make him separate from her. Don't worry, Hatsume, Midoriya remarked, his oblivious tone doing nothing to calm the girl's fears. I'm not going anywhere. Why you better not? The boy paused. Okay, let's do something, we'll sit on the sand, and I'll tell you what I wanted to do here, okay? Hatsume just nodded, and next thing she knew, Midoriya took her to a place closer to the waves and sat down. The sand felt nice, and the louder sounds of the waves crashing in the shore had a soothing feeling that helped Hatsume forget her fear that Midoriya was going to go away and leave her behind. It didn't completely go away, though, as the girl had clung to the boy's arm. I'm sorry if this makes you uncomfortable, but... Hatsume sighed. I just don't feel safe without knowing you're near me. Midoriya brushed Hatsume's hair. Hatsume, you know that no matter what happens, I'll always be there for you. I'm sorry, Midoriya, I really am, but I just can't find it in myself to believe you. I feel like, any second after you let go, the hero killer is going to come out of nowhere and finish what he started. Yup. Even months after the event, and several months since the hero killer was still spotted, the girl was still terrified of the prospect of him appearing and killing her. Sure, it was unlikely. Sure, there was a chance he'd kill a dozen heroes before he'd ever think of killing a support student. And sure, he could very well not appear until years down the line. None of that mattered. What mattered was that he blinded her, and he was still out there. To Hatsume, without Midoriya or mechanical eyes, it was a matter of time before she was found and hugged. Midoriya. The hug tightened, confirming it was Midoriya who was giving Hatsume a showcase of affection. What are you doing? I couldn't think of anything else to do, so, I was hoping this would be enough to cheer you up, he answered, before he brushed her hair again. I can't just stand and watch you be scared like that. Hatsume eventually hugged back, letting out a chuckle as she quipped, well, you've always been unable to refuse a call for help. Midoriya smiled, though Hatsume couldn't see it. And in your case, I'm very glad I didn't refuse it. Hatsume blushed brightly. Midoriya, what are you saying? Midoriya began to separate from Hatsume, but unlike last time, the girl gathered her composure and didn't try to force him to stay put. Which was good, since she'd need all her energy for what he'd say next. I'm saying, that I want to protect you. Hatsume raised an eyebrow, so Midoriya explained. When I snatched you away from the hero killer, I had no idea what to do. Sure, helping you get your eyesight back was the obvious thing to do, but after that, I was at a loss. And you just kept coming back. Hatsume blushed a little at the statement. She remembered how, in the 10 months leading to the entrance exam, she would drop by the Midoriyas more and more often, initially just to try and test her mechanical eyes. But eventually, she started dropping by just because. And then, she began to feel a little disillusioned when told Midoriya wasn't around. And now, she had just tried to stop him from leaving her. I think I understand. Was she too obvious? You're scared that if I leave you alone, Stain will kill you, right? Phew. False alarm. Why yes, she stammered. That's it. Well, I want to let you know that, no matter what happens, I'll be around to protect you. Midoriya patted Hatsume's back. Even if you think you're alone, you won't. Because I'll be with you, protecting you and making sure nothing bad happens to you. A white flash happened, and Hatsume felt something very light land on her hair. Not that she gave much thought of it before she suddenly stated. I want to protect you too. Midoriya said nothing, and after a short pause, Hatsume continued. It's not fair that you want to protect me without getting anything as a result. You have you have a future hero career, and you have a potentially crazy stalker who wants you for herself. Midoriya nervously chuckled. Okay, Mina definitely didn't give the impression of being pleasant, but I don't think she's that crazy. Whatever. Hatsume twiddled her fingers. The point is, I want to help you, just as you've helped me. So, if you say you want to protect me, then I'll protect you back. Hatsume, his voice had a hint of relief in it. I don't know how long it'll take, but I'll find a way to have your back, Midoriya. With that, the teenagers patted each other's back, and remained silent as the sounds of the waves and the seagulls adorned the atmosphere. And then Midoriya scoffed. You know, it's been almost over a year since we first met. Shouldn't you be calling me Izuku already? Hatsume pushed Midoriya away and flailed her arms. Are you crazy? That's way too fast. We're good friends, not boyfriend and girlfriend. Midoriya chuckled. Sorry, I just wanted to give you a piece of your own medicine. You jerk. Midoriya kept laughing, but it didn't have a hint of malice. It was just playful, friendly, the kind that anybody could join in without looking like an utter jerk. And Hatsume did just that. The rest of the day was nowhere near as eventful, so much so that, if you were to ask Hatsume, she and Midoriya had spent the whole day at the beach, with only a short stop at a carnival to eat ice cream. The duo thus returned to the Midoriya household, being greeted by a welcoming hug from Melissa and Inko. And judging by how she felt a pair of soft mounds smothering her face, Hatsume figured Melissa was the one hugging her. Oh, Hatsume, you're back. Melissa chirped, confirming she was the one hugging her. I was just about to go out looking for you. We weren't gone for that long, were we? She asked, raising an eyebrow. No, but we finished upgrading your eyes, and I couldn't contain my excitement. It felt so good to work with Aunt Inko once again. And me. Hatsume gently released herself from Melissa's hold and tried to walk closer to the voice, only to be stopped when Midoriya kept his grip on her. Midoriya, do you see where that voice came from? Yeah, it belongs to a small boy with a purple, circular mohawk. Hatsume wasn't sure how to take that answer. All she knew was that she wanted to know who it was, and there was only one way to find out. She was knocked out again, so the process of inserting the eyes wouldn't hurt, and a few minutes later, Hatsume opened them, and was utterly mesmerized. Red, blue, green, yellow. She could now see all the colors. And not in a clusterfuck of colors like in those abstract paintings, but she could see things clearly. Like how Midoriya and Inko had green hair, Melissa was blonde, and the short guy really did have what looked like a purple, rounded mohawk. Wait, the short guy. Who are you? Hatsume exclaimed, pointing at the boy. Allow me to introduce myself, the guy said, Hatsume flashing an expression that told him to get on with it. My name is Minoru Mineta. I'm on the support course, and I came here to check up on my senior. Senior, Hatsume repeated. Did that mean the boy was on her class? How did you know to look for her here? Midoriya inquired. I asked our teacher where she was since she didn't appear, and he told me that your mom sent him a message telling him she wouldn't come, Mineta explained with a shrug. So then I asked some people where I could find your house, and a guy with blonde hair gave me directions. Bakugo gave the little guy directions, without blowing him up. Then again, it was just as likely the little guy didn't mention that stuff for one reason or another. Anyway, I got here just as the two ladies over there were working on your eyes, Mineta added, causing Melissa to blush while Inko just chuckled. So, since you're my senior, I figured I could add some modifications myself. Oh lord, what the hell did the little twerp do? If you wanna know, just press the purple button to your left. Hatsume touched the left side of her face until she found the mentioned button, and pushed it. Once she did, she was stunned. Her vision had zoomed in on the guy's face, and allowed her to take a closer look at the room in general. She pressed it again, her vision zoomed further. She pressed it once more, and it zoomed even further. But then she pressed it again, and her vision zoomed back to normal. It's just like my quirk. She chirped. But how? The boy there reminded us of your quirk when he asked for a girl who could zoom into things, Inko explained. And since we had some time, we installed 3 sets of sight-enhancing apparatus to your eyes. I added the button. Mineta chirped, as if he had done anything important. Hatsume smiled and nodded. Thanks, little guy. Mineta chuckled and scratched the back of his head, while Hatsume turned back to Midoriya. Can we go back to Dagobah Municipal Beach Park? All 5 of them did. Midoriya, Melissa, Inko, and Mineta stood just at the start of the park, while Hatsume took a couple steps forward, taking in the time to look at the scenery in front of her. Sure, she could always just zoom in, but that would risk getting a faceful of the sun. The sunset adorned the sky with a breathtaking orange color, and its reflection shined in the waves as they crashed on the shore. Hearing the waves was soothing enough. Seeing them was another thing altogether. So, Hatsume. Midoriya walked to Hatsume's side. What do you think? Do you like the upgrade? Hatsume formed a smile, and rested her head on Midoriya's shoulder, keeping her eyes locked onto the sunset. I love it. By the way, Hatsume, before I forget, Midoriya blurted. Where did that feather come from? Surprised by the question, Hatsume touched her hair until she felt something fluffy. She grabbed it and took it down to see whatever it was, and she saw it was the feather that Midoriya just mentioned. But it wasn't any ordinary feather. It was a swan feather. Melissa yawned as she got up from her futon, stretching her limbs as she walked to her curtains and parted them, hoping to be met with a vibrant sun. Instead, it looked extremely cloudy, to the point it would most certainly rain at any minute now. Well, that's a downer of a sight, Melissa hummed. If it does end up raining, it won't cancel classes, but I don't have an umbrella or a raincoat. Melissa snapped her fingers, and opened her drawer, taking out a red arm brace from it. So I'll just have to make it sunny. She opened the door to her room, closed it, and walked down until she was a couple steps away from the apartment. A quick scan around the area showed nobody else was around, so Melissa was free to charge her arm brace and say, "Weather smash." She threw a punch in the air, and the resulting shock was so intense it cracked the ground underneath her and pierced a small hole on the cloudy sky. It wasn't long before hole was filled closed, though. I guess I should have seen this coming. Melissa eyed the brace. The ore brace was created to contain Uncle Might's immense power, but my current control is nowhere near that tent. It figures that a punch from it directed at the sky wouldn't be enough to change the weather. Melissa. The girl flinched and turned around, spotting the Midoriyas walking to her. Oh. Hi Midoriya, Aunt Inko, she greeted with the arm brace, which she quickly hid. Good morning. I was, just doing some stretches. Is that the reason you're wearing that arm brace? Midoriya asked. Crap, guess they did see it after all. Yeah, it's an arm brace I designed myself, Melissa nervously presented the brace. You see, my quirk releases a lot of force, enough to break my bones even, so I designed this little. Melissa paused. She wanted to say, baby, but she feared doing so would summon Hatsume right to her side. Trinket in order to help me control it better. Whoa, that's amazing. Midoriya said. Can I take a closer look? Maybe later. For now, you two need to get ready for school, Inko remarked. Now, Izuku, do you mind going back and get changed while I talk with Melissa? Sure. The boy walked back to his room, and Inko grabbed Melissa's hand. Let's go to your room. For a famous scientist's daughter, Melissa didn't live particularly luxurious. In fact, her room was quite humble. A TV, a futon, a desk, and some instant good as well as a cooking machine were all that was present. I still think this room is a little empty, Inko remarked. I'll work with what I got until I get some more money, Melissa said in response. Anyway, what did you want to talk to me about? Inko turned to Melissa, put her hands on the table, and sighed, have you told Izuku about your quirk yet? Melissa flinched. She figured Inko would ask her this question eventually, just not so suddenly. She got the idea to lie and say yes, but Inko's concerned expression convinced her to change her plans. After all, Inko could tell a liar from a mile away. No, I wanted to tell him yesterday, but I got cold feet and told him I was worried about the moving. Which, I mean, that's also true, but not nearly as important. Inko took a deep breath. Melissa, I know you don't like keeping secrets from people, mostly because you can't exactly hide them without acting so weird, people end up finding about them eventually. Melissa chuckled and scratched the back of her head, flashing a sheepish smile. What I'm trying to get at is, are you certain that you want to tell Izuku about your quirk? Perhaps the reason you got cold feet yesterday was because you weren't actually sure about your decision. Melissa lowered her head. A part of me wants to forget about it, and keep him in the dark. But another part of me is telling me that if he has to learn about the quirk, it should be from my own mouth, not his own deductions. So, you recognize that he could figure it out on his own? Inko folded her arms. Izuku's a smart kid, so if you decide not to tell him, it might not be long before he finds out on his own. Aunt Inko, no offense, but you're doing a terrible job at convincing me this is a good idea. I'm not trying to convince you to do anything, I'm just stating the facts. In the end, the only one that can decide whether to tell Izuku you have one for all or not, is you. Then, Inko thought about it, and blurted something that caught Melissa's attention. Although, maybe getting All Might's opinion wouldn't hurt. Of course, Uncle Might. He's the one who handed her the quirk, it would only be fair to get his opinion on whether to tell Izuku or not before doing it. And since he had to keep his quirk's nature a secret ever since he got it, he'll definitely have a better understanding of the situation, right? Right. Wait, crap, she was going to run late. And this time, she wouldn't have an excuse. Sorry, Aunt Inko, but I gotta go. One quick change of clothes later, Melissa bolted out of the room, leaving Inko to pray that Melissa would get an answer on what to do eventually. Melissa entered the train and sat down mere seconds before it drove off, sending her sliding slightly to the side. She quickly grabbed onto the armrest and took a deep breath. Okay, Melissa, stay calm. You're going to go to Uncle Might's office as soon as you can, you're going to ask him for his opinion on the matter, and then you'll decide whether to tell. The girl paused, and slowly turned around to meet the confused looks of Midoriya and Hatsume. Midoriya, Hatsume, how long have you been there? Since the train took off. Hatsume answered. I mean, we're all heading to UA, it's only natural we take the same train. It's kind of surprising we wound up sitting together, though, especially since some of us left earlier than others. Midoriya let out a little chuckle. It's almost like fate wanted this to happen, huh? Yeah, fate can have a pretty sick sense of humor at times. So, where's your arm brace? Midoriya asked. I saved it inside my bag, Melissa answered, forcing a little smile. I only really use it during training, and since we got basic heroics today. Can I see it later? Hatsume inquired, tilting her head. I want to see how it compares to some of the stuff my juniors and teacher do. Melissa giggled. Hatsume, don't be ridiculous. My craftwork can't possibly compare. You practically replicated my quirk when you and Midoriya's mom upgraded my eyes. There's being humble, and then there's being ignorant of what you can do. What Hatsume's trying to say is, Midoriya flashed a smile. You're quite gifted with gadgetry. So, maybe you should try to be more aware of it. We're not going to judge you. Melissa smiled for a second before she hugged her bag, her smile turning into a frown as she turned to look at it. Sorry. It's okay. Besides, suddenly, the train stopped just short of UA, and as soon as the doors opened, Melissa stood up and bolted out of the place. Midoriya and Hatsume followed behind, only to be stunned when they saw Melissa speed away so fast, she left yellow afterimages. Whoa, wait, I thought her quirk had to do with her arms. Maybe it's one of those quirks that affects different body parts. With the awkwardness of the train ride still fresh in her mind, Melissa walked through the hallways and headed to All Might's office. She needed to get there before fate decided to have her go through another meeting with the little green bean. She knocked the door 3 times once she arrived. Come in. Melissa opened the door and saw All Might, wearing a yellow suit in his muscular form, holding a cup of coffee while facing away from the door. You Uncle Might? Melissa asked as she walked inside. Please, young Melissa. All Might laughed and turned to Melissa. You know that while we're in school, you're supposed to call me All Might. I know, sorry, I still haven't worked out that quirk, Melissa giggled. And speaking of quirks, before you continue, please close the door. Melissa obliged, and as soon as he locked the door as well, All Might blew up in a smoke cloud. He emerged from the cloud looking like a lanky skeleton, his clothes fitting him a little less tightly than before. Phew, thanks for that. The man sat down on his desk and took a deep breath. I need to recharge as much as I can. I got 2 hero course classes to give and I feel like they're going to take a while. Anyway, what did you want to talk about, young Melissa? Melissa sat down next to the lanky man. It's about One for All. All Might paused and took a sip of his coffee. Is something wrong with it? No, in fact, I think I might be able to increase the output I can use from 8% to 12% by the end of this week. Melissa scratched her cheek. What I wanted to discuss you was about the idea of letting someone know about it. Young Melissa, the more people know about One for All, the much greater risk it runs at its true nature being discovered, All Might calmly pointed out. And once the truth about One for All comes to light, the villains will take every advantage they can get with it. I know, Melissa whined. All Might sighed. So, who did you tell about it? Just Aunt Inko so far. Ah, Inko Midoriya. I saw her a couple times while she and David were still co-workers. All Might flashed a little smile. She was quite a woman, dependable, supportive, always ready for everything. It truly was sad when she stopped showing up. I think it was a good call to tell her. She won't tell anybody about it no matter what. Thanks, but there's another person I'm debating on telling about One for All. All Might's smile vanished and he took a sip of his coffee. It's her son, Izuku Midoriya. All Might spat out his drink, before spitting some blood during a coughing fit. Uncle Might, are you alright? Asterisk cough asterisk why yeah, just cough asterisk you surprised me, that's all. The man wiped the blood off his mouth. Izuku Midoriya, do you really think he's someone worthy of knowing about One for All? Melissa twiddled her fingers. I was hoping you could help me decide whether I should tell him or not. All Might shook his head. I'm afraid you got the wrong person. During my entire time with One for All, I never told a single person about its existence. Not my closest friends, not my family, not even your father knew about it. Melissa pouted. And a couple of things could have been aborted if you had told him. We can discuss what happened at Island later. All Might took a sip from his coffee. For now, I cannot. The problem is that, I feel like he's going to find out regardless of whether I tell him or not. But if he finds out on his own and not from me, his perspective on me might change. All Might raised an eyebrow. What I mean is, I think he'll grow to distrust me if he finds out I had your quirk this entire time and didn't trust him enough to tell him about it. If he really is Inko's son, I doubt he'd think that. Inko was always a very understanding, very calm person. Even so, I cannot tell you that telling him is a good idea. Having Inko as a confidant should be enough. And yet, it feels like something's missing. All Might put his coffee on the table. Young Melissa, listen. Suddenly, the alarm blared, and Melissa stood up and looked through the window to see what was going on. She figured it was just the media having broken inside to try and get an interview on All Might. She was wrong. She was so very wrong. The media invading the school would have been a much better alternative. Because instead of the media, it was hero killer Stain who was on school grounds. The entire school stood frozen in disbelief as they tried to process what they were looking at. Stain, the legendary hero killer with over a dozen, hero kills, under his belt, was now around the school, surrounded by promising hero students and everybody else. HMPH, I can sense their fear towards me. Good. That will make it easier to tell who's a faker and who's a legitimate hero. Suddenly, the alarms blared, which brought a smile to the killer's face. Any hero will take that as a sign to act. Now, to wait and see how long it takes before a genuine hero comes to the fray. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. Young Melissa, please calm down. All Might said as he walked to the girl's side and patted her back. Freaking out isn't going to help anybody. I know, but can you blame me? Melissa pointed at the window. Just look through the window and you'll see why I can't help but freak out. All Might obliged, and as soon as he saw through the window, his reaction was nowhere near as extreme as Melissa had expected. Sure, he looked shocked, but that was about it. The hero killer's here. All Might scratched his chin. But how could that be possible? His last known location was nowhere near UA's location. Who cares how he got here? What matters is the fact that he's even here. Melissa exclaimed, flailing her arms. If the hero killer is here, then that can only mean one thing. All Might's eyes widened. He's here to kill heroes. Melissa rolled her eyes. No, Uncle Might, he's here to sell real estate. The man blinked as he took a step back, caught off guard by the rather snarky response handed by the inheritor. She promptly realized what she said and took a deep breath. I'm so sorry, Uncle Might, I'm just so scared right now. I never thought something like this would happen while I was at school, heck, I never thought it would have happened during my first week. All Might put a hand on her shoulder. Melissa, I told you that this could happen any time when I asked you to inherit one for all. Uncle Might, we both know I rushed this decision. Melissa folded her arms. I was doing good with my inventions until you appeared at my doorstep, and offered me to inherit your quirk, and I tried to give it some thought, I really did, but now, I'm wondering if I gave it enough. All Might put his remaining hand on Melissa's remaining shoulder. Even if you rushed it, Gran Torino prepared you for this kind of situation far better than I ever could. And you got the arm brace too, right? Melissa smiled sheepishly. I kinda used it once this morning to try and clear the sky. Good, then it should still be able to go all out twice before it gets destroyed. All Might separated from Melissa and assumed his buff form. Meanwhile, I'll see if Principal Nezu can help me maintain my buff form so I can take care of this problem myself. But until then, Melissa looked at her fist. It'll be up to me. Well, you and the teachers that show up to help, All Might pointed out. Anyway, I gotta go. Get ready, and be careful. Sure. The muscular man walked to the door and locked it, pausing as he grabbed the doorknob. Oh, and young Melissa. The girl turned to the man, and received a flashy thumbs up and toothy smile. Good luck. Melissa nodded with a smile. Same, Uncle Might. The man left, and Melissa took the moment to open her bag and take out the arm brace. She equipped the brace, and clenched her fist, causing yellow electricity to surge through the brace. Guess I'll get to test this thing in a battle. Hatsume was this close to shitting bricks. Not only had the security at UA been trespassed, something that wasn't thought possible once the upgrades had been made, but the trespasser was none other than the guy who blinded her, hero killer Stain. Even as she walked with Mineta at the far end of the evacuating group of students, her legs shook and she wobbled all over the place, almost tripping over the tiny boy in one instance. Calm down, Hatsume, everything's going to be alright, the purple dwarf told his senior, hoping to ease her worries. The teachers are pro-heroes, and they'll go out and take care of the trespasser while we evacuate. You don't understand, Mineta, Hatsume clutched her chest. This isn't just any ordinary trespasser. It's Stain, the hero killer. Hatsume was very glad she was at the end of the group, otherwise they might have heard her and begun panicking. Mineta, however, was unfortunate enough to actually hear it. In that case, they might actually be in more danger than I thought. He quickly shook such negative thoughts away. But don't worry, the teachers are super strong. Besides, even if he got past the teachers, he'd only go after the hero course students. Hatsume stopped and shook her head. Mineta. The boy stopped and turned to the cyborg engineer. Why do you think I have mechanical eyes? The boy didn't quite understand the point of the question, but once he gave it a little bit of thought, he slowly put two and two together, and grimaced at the implications. And then Hatsume began walking again and dragged him with her. Let's get going, otherwise we'll be left behind. Mineta silently nodded, and as they walked, he frowned with concern. Hatsume. Midoriya scratched his head. One way or another, he was sensing that Hatsume was feeling distressed and scared. But there was no way that could be possible, right? Even if his quirk gave him the ability to sense one person's emotional state, why would it be Hatsume? He knew he said he'd be there to protect her, but he couldn't exactly do that while he was evacuating alongside his peers of Class 1B. Alright everybody, stay close and don't split. Kendo, leading the crowd, shouted. We'll be reaching the exit fairly soon. Vlad King had left with some other teachers to try deal with the trespasser, so Kendo had been left in charge of evacuating the class. She was doing a pretty decent job, judging by how everybody followed her lead, no questions asked. Hey, isn't that the girl from 1A? Shiozaki, who stood next to Midoriya, inquired. The boy almost wanted to point out how vague the question was before he turned around and saw the girl in question. It was Mina Ashido, who looked at her surroundings before she went downstairs. Midoriya, I feel like she's up to something. Shiozaki clasped her hands. This might sound bad to you, but could you see what she's doing? I'll cover for you. Did Midoriya hear that right? Shiozaki, who up until this point had been shown to be somewhat abrasive, was now asking him to check on someone, and was even willing to cover for him in case his absence was noticed. Well, the boy was curious about what Mina was doing, so. Alright, thanks Shiozaki. The vine-haired girl nodded, and the boy separated from the group, power walking fast enough down the stairs to find Mina leaning against a corner of the wall, touching something on her ear. And a new layer of his quirk must have awakened, because despite her whispering, he managed to hear her clearly. Stain, how's your situation? Midoriya's eyes widened. Meh, it could be better. The hero killer swiftly dodged a razorhead scarf, and present Mike's Titanic, yeah. At the same time, he tried to dash forward to them, but Midnight appeared in front of him and released her sleeping gas, forcing the vigilante to back away. This, however, brought him right to Vlad King's arms, who promptly used his quirk to trap both of them into a blood-made jacket. This, in turn, prompted Stain to touch his arm with his glove, which had a pink palm. With the pink underside causing part of the blood to melt, and the pain to make Vlad King release the both of them. This let Stain jump to and rest on a tree. I'm getting overwhelmed, but the gadgets made with your quirk are making it a lot less of a hassle, Stain said, looking at his pink-palmed glove. How are you doing on your end? No response. Ashido, can you hear? Crack. Asterisk. Midoriya kicked the remains of the earpiece away while locking hands with Mina, his eyes glaring right into her own as he sternly asked. Ashido, why were you talking with Stain just now? The girl's shocked expression soon contorted into a grin of malice, and a second later she began overpowering Midoriya. You're a smart guy, Midoriya. I'm pretty sure you can figure it out on your own. Midoriya tried to overpower Mina again, but she proved to have just enough strength to lock them both into a stalemate. Don't tell me, you and Stain are in cahoots. Mine began moving, and the guy couldn't help but move as well. Cahoots. Oh no, Midoriya, her smirk widened. I'm not just in cahoots with him. By the time they stopped, Midoriya turned back to see they were facing the other staircase, this one leading down to what looked like a window. I'm his apprentice. Mina pushed Midoriya forward, and the boy screamed as he hit the ground with a loud thud. Izuku, Hatsume and Mineta stopped on their tracks, the former covering her mouth and looking at the ground. That was the first time, consciously or otherwise, that she had called Midoriya by his first name, but the real thing that caught her attention was the fact she had sensed the fact Midoriya was in pain at all. Who's Izuku? Mineta asked. It's Midoriya's first name, Hatsume answered, earning a confused look from Mineta. The guy with green hair whose quirk gives him swan wings, you saw him at the house when I got my eyes. Oh, that guy. You think he's in problems. I can sense he's in danger, but I don't know how that's even possible. Maybe it has something to do with that glowing feather on your hair. Flinching, Hatsume reached for her hair and took out the feather, lowering it to her face to see that yes, it was indeed glowing. Except it wasn't constant. The feather glowed for a moment, before turning back to normal, then glowed again, then back to normal, rinse and repeat until Hatsume made a horrific conclusion. He's in danger. Midoriya groaned as he rubbed his back, moments before Mina walked up to him, grabbed him by the neck and lifted him. I'm sorry that I have to do this, Midoriya, I really am, Mina spoke without a hint of dishonesty. But you have to understand that Stain needs to give a message to the generation of fakers in this school. Mina threw Midoriya away, and the boy weakly stood up. Generation of fakers. What are you even talking about? How did you even become Stain's apprentice? Mina took a deep breath and folded her arms as she slowly walked to Midoriya. Imagine this, a little girl is born in a town that doesn't like mutants. Though her quirk is an emitter, her wild looks gets her discriminated as a fake mutant. Eventually, her parents are forced to kick her out when the discrimination reaches dangerous levels, and the girl is left alone, no money, no family, nothing but the clothes she wears, to survive in a world that has already rejected her. Midoriya flinched, the story sounding eerily similar to his own life story. Sure, he wasn't kicked out of the house, but the discrimination. Even if he was being told rather than shown, his decade of bullying made him get a general picture of what Mina had gone through. She pleads constantly, hoping to find just one person, not even a hero, just a person, who'll accept her for who she is and give her the home that her city denied her. Mina stopped right in front of Midoriya, her eyes forming a furious expression. Nobody listens, except for one individual. She grabbed Midoriya's collar. Hero killer Stain. She threw Midoriya to the ground, and wrapped his arm behind his back. He takes her in, and teaches her the ways of the world, how all heroes accept all might of fakers who only care about fame, money, or other unheroic ideals like love. He teaches her how in this world, heroism has gone from being an honorable concept, into a mere gimmick, made to further motivate the fakers. Mina rolled up Midoriya's sleeve, and pressed her fingertips on his arms, releasing a mild acid as she continued. He teaches how, if she wants to have a home, if she wants to get back everything the heroes couldn't get back for her, that she'll need to learn his ways in order to take it back by herself. And he only asks one thing in exchange. Mina increased the severity of the acid, causing Midoriya to scream in pain. Help him spread his message through any means necessary, determining the best place to attack, determining which fake hero needs to die next. Mina began giggling, though in a twisted way, it seemed like she was crying as well. Even going so far as to attack students, heroes or otherwise. It was this statement that caused Midoriya to stop screaming. His rage slowly surfaced as he turned to flash a glare at Mina, his eyes glowing orange. Even so, this wasn't enough to get the girl to stop her assault. Stain attacked and blinded Hatsume 10 months before the entrance exam. His eyes diluted. Did you? Mina flashed a horrific hybrid between a smile and a frown. I gave him the suggestion, and he executed it quite magnificently, if I do say so myself. In that moment, something snapped inside Midoriya. His eyes slowly grew bigger until his entire eye had been covered in an orange color, his pupils disappearing soon after to turn his eyes completely orange. His wings burst from his back, hitting Mina hard enough to send her flying into the wall. His back freed, the boy stood up as his wings spread wide. But they didn't vanish. His form continued to change, his skin slowly turned pearly white, as well as his hair, and he gained black rings on his neck, hair, and hands as he twitched, and turned back to the acidic girl. The final change was his nose turning orange, and barely a second later, he roared an unholy screech as his left wing disappeared, and his left arm glowed. Reacting as fast as she could, Mina slid away moments before the fist connected, causing Midoriya to hit the window and shatter it completely. Holy shit. He destroyed the window with a single punch. Midoriya turned to Mina and threw another left punch, this one hitting her so hard she was sent flying straight into the end of the hallway, knocking some lockers over. Once she hit the ground, Mina spat out something, and she grimaced as soon as she saw it was blood. To further confirm it, she wiped off some of the stuff off her mouth, and took a closer look at it. Yup, it was definitely blood. So his punch is also strong enough to make me draw blood. Mina stood up and glared at the transformed guy. Just what the hell are you, Izuku Midoriya? In that same moment, Hatsume and Mineta arrived at the second floor and looked around, quickly finding the sight of Midoriya about to rush towards Mina, who had her palms open. Ah, Hatsume, I don't think Midoriya's in danger anymore, the purple dwarf remarked. Hatsume, however, could notice the little smirk in Mina's face as steam came out of her hands. She definitely had a plan, and whatever it was, it counted on Midoriya rushing right at her. She turned to Midoriya, and saw the guy's transformed, berserk state, making it all but certain that he'd fall for the trap. Especially as he took a couple of heavy breaths before unleashing his horrific screech. Midoriya's wings disappeared, and his legs glowed, right before he rushed straight for Mina. He ran at a speed much faster than he had shown previously, but this only made Mina smirk wider. She spread her arms further and aimed them forward. Izuku. Suddenly, time froze, and the enraged guy stopped as he felt a body wrapping itself around him, in a hug. He moved his hands towards the mass that was hugging close to him, and to his shock, the mass slowly gained a familiar shape. Hatsume. Once her shape had been identified, the formless mass shifted to resemble Hatsume, who was looking at the enraged Midoriya with a look of worry. Yes, Izuku, it's me, Hatsume. Midoriya lowered his arms until they reached the girl's back, which he gripped tightly. Protect. Yes, you protected me, and I'm grateful for it. Hatsume sighed. But it's time to back down. No, Midoriya exclaimed, his anger resurfacing. Not yet. Not until Ashido cripples you. The guy flinched and looked back at Hatsume's expression. She was still scared, but now there was a hint of angered concern in her expression. She has already proven to be willing to hurt your own classmates just to make a point. I don't know what's up with her and Stain, but you can't deny that if they have a connection, then there's a chance she could cripple you just as Stain crippled me. Mina smirked. Now that's an idea. Midoriya's anger began to resurface, but Hatsume hugged him harder. Izuku, please, it's not worth it. Let's just evacuate like everyone else. We can deal with this another day. Just not today. Hearing the genuine sorrow in the girl's tone, Midoriya's form slowly turned back to his base as he returned the hug, and patted her back twice. All right, Hatsume, lead the way. Mina chuckled, getting the irritated attention of the duo. Seriously, you're asking the functionally blind girl to lead you? The duo glared at Mina for a second before they turned around and began walking away, Hatsume taking the lead while Midoriya took a moment to throw one last glare at Mina. And with this glare, a message was given very clearly to the pink-skinned acidic gal. The next time they met, nothing would stop Midoriya from making her pay for what she'd done. Absolutely nothing. Principal Nezu. The small mysterious critter turned to the door to see All Might catching his breath before turning back into his emancipated form. Ah, All Might, I was just expecting you, Nezu calmly, almost nonchalantly remarked. I'm going to guess you're here to discuss what to do about this trespasser. This isn't just any trespasser, Principal Nezu, it's Stain. All Might stated. If he gets past my co-workers, he could. Relax, All Might, he won't get anywhere. Nezu took a sip of his tea. But I can see worry still covers your face, so I've got something to help you deal with him. The white critter got off his desk and opened a drawer, from where he took out a small black box. Now, All Might, this gadget I'm going to give you is a very rare, one-of-a-kind object, and unless we can get its creator to return to the world of support, it might never be replicated. All Might raised an eyebrow. And why's that? Nezu opened the box. Because it's the last support item created by Inko Midoriya before her retirement. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.